What I'm about to say is probably going to trigger you, but someone needs to ruffle some feathers today, so let's get into it. You've been picking up weights, you've been working your butt off, but a year has passed, maybe even longer, and your body still looks the same. But that's not a willpower problem, that's a programming and a strategy problem. I've worked with enough women in this exact scenario who feel like they're doing strength training to build muscle, and that's actually further from the truth. Today, I'm gonna walk you through what's actually required to build true muscle so that you can see the toning and the definition that you want, why most fitness classes, including strength-based fitness classes, are not true progressive overload, and how you can actually finally see the toning and the definition that you want so that the work that you're putting in actually shows. So let's dive in. Point 1, your strength training isn't actually building anything. If you're lifting weights, doing resistance-based fitness classes, and you're feeling the burn, you're sweating, you feel like you're doing something, you're probably not actually building real muscle. And that's where the problem lies. The fitness industry has made cardio with weights look like strength training. In fact, we all know that fitness classes with weights have gotten rebranded as Sculpt and Tone and Tighten. The thing about these kinds of workouts are they feel hard, it feels like you're working, you're sweating, you're burning, and you can feel the fatigue. So you think that you're building muscle, but this cannot be further from the truth. Building muscle and burning calories are two separate things. And if you want to grow actual muscle that you can see and feel, it requires a very specific training stimulus with proper nutritional support. Here's what I mean. Growing muscle requires a very specific training stimulus, meaning you have to put enough mechanical tension on that specific muscle for it to actually grow. This is called progressive overload. And you've probably heard this term thrown around, but I think we need a professional to further define it. Progressive overload does not mean taking random fitness classes, doing random lifts in the gym, or doing strength training and saying you're building muscle. Rather, progressive overload means doing the same exercises every single week and increasing the weight, increasing the reps, or increasing both. You do this every single week for weeks at a time, then months at a time, and even years at a time to build muscle. A fitness class with a different format every week, where they're doing different reps, different weights, different exercises, no real rhyme or reason to it, is not going to give you the muscle growth and toning and definition you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, just because you're burning calories and lifting weights doesn't mean you're growing actual muscle, because fatiguing the muscle is different than growing it. And before you come at me like, but Perry, I lift heavy, I'm doing all these things. That's great, but if you're not doing actual progressive overload, where you're tracking your lifts, your weights, your reps, and doing the same exercises every single week, you're not actually growing muscle. You could be doing 3 or 4 fitness classes a week or hitting the gym, doing strength training, and never actually build a pound of muscle. And I know a lot of you are falling into this category. And look, this isn't a knock on movement. Like, we all know that exercising and movement is always going to be better for your health than being sedentary and not. But if you're going for a specific physique where you want to build lean muscle mass and tone and tighten, that requires a very specific training and nutritional protocol, progressive overload being one of them. Real progressive overload means getting on a specific training program that includes a lot of the traditional compound lifts. Think bench press, hip thrusts, squats, hip hinges, those kinds of exercises, repeating them every single week for weeks and months at a time, where every week you track your reps, you track your weight, and then you try to increase one or the other or both every single week. That's progressive overload. That's it. Overall, your body responds to progressive demand. So if you give it that progressive demand every single week, it will change. If you keep doing random workouts, fitness classes, and doing whatever you feel like that day, it won't. I know this story so well because it used to be me. I taught and took fitness classes for 8 years in so many different formats. We're talking Sculpt, boot camp, strength training classes. None of that changed my body the way that I wanted it to. Instead, progressive overload did. And when you start progressive overload, it's going to feel different. It's not going to feel as chaotic as fitness classes. It's probably not going to feel as exciting. You probably won't even sweat as much, but it actually works. And within a few months of doing this, I guarantee you that your body will start to change. Now, I say all of this with a caveat because if you're like, okay, Perry, well, I'm just going to start doing a progressive overload training program and my body's going to magically be toned and tightened and I'm going to be able to see all the muscle that I've been working to create. And not so much. Like, slow your roll. There's a little bit more that goes into it. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see most women make when they start a progressive overload training program. So that's what we're going to get into next. Point 2, you're not doing progressive overload correctly. If you're going to the gym, you're lifting heavy, you're lifting your weights, you're checking the box of going up in reps or going up in weight or going up in both, you probably think that you're building muscle. But in reality, you might just be adding weight occasionally, you might just be checking the box and moving through the motions, and you might not actually be building muscle even though you're doing progressive overload. But progressive overload isn't just lifting heavy, there's a specific system to follow. Like 1, following the same movements and exercises every single week for at least 8 to 16 weeks or so. You could even do the same exercises for 6 months and see results. 2, proper form and alignment so the muscles that need to be worked are actually getting worked. 3, tempo, because how fast or how slow you're moving through the movement matters, as well as where you're pausing and holding. 4, mind to muscle connection, because if you're just going from point A to point B without actually tapping into the muscle that's supposed to be working, you're probably just going through the motions. And number 5, to top it all up, is tracking. If you're not tracking the weight that you're using, your reps, and increasing that every single week, you're not truly progressing. You're just doing random progressive overload, aka probably randomly lifting weights in the gym. Most of you who are at the gym or in strength-based fitness classes aren't actually tracking anything. Like, you have no idea what you did last week. You're not doing the same exercises. You're going heavy and hard, but there's no benchmark for you to beat from the week prior, nor are you following the same exercises for 6 to 8 to 12 to 16 weeks. I know this might sound like a lot, and it may even feel boring to some of you to repeat the same exercises every single week, but it actually simplifies your life so much. If you're in this scenario, here's what I recommend to course correct. Develop a well-rounded workout for each muscle group. I would do 3 to 4 days a week, hitting up different muscle groups throughout the week. If you're doing 3 times a week, you could do 3 full body workouts, but if you're leaning towards 4, you probably want to break them up between lower and upper body. Keep the same exercises for 8 to 12 to 16 weeks. I know that may seem boring, but just give it a shot. Next is to log your weights and reps. You can do this in an app, you can do this in your notepad, or you can be old school and literally bring a notepad with a pen to the gym. I used to do that back in the day. Show up the following week with last week's numbers. Take a look at what you did last week and beat your score by going up in weight, going up in reps, or going up in both. You can also increase sets or reduce rest time, though I usually recommend the first. Make sure you're focusing on form, tempo, intensity, and also the most important, which is mind to muscle connection. If you are not feeling it in your body where you're supposed to, the muscle is not going to fire properly and you won't get the results that you're looking for. Then and only then will the muscle actually grow. My client Mandy came in to work with me last year, 39 years old, eating healthy, working out. She was doing strength training 4 to 5 times a week, and she could not figure out why she couldn't build muscle and tone the way that she wanted to. We made a few tweaks to her training program with proper nutrition to support it, and boom, her body responded so quickly, and she received more results with me in just a few months than she had in years trying things on her own. When you start doing true progressive overload, instead of chasing a sweat or a calorie burn or how hard you felt like it was, the results actually show. Instead of chasing how sore you are or how sweaty you are or how many calories you burn, you start to chase performance numbers. How can I beat my score from last week? That becomes your new motto. Now, let's say you've implemented progressive overload, you're honing in on your form, your tempo, your intensity, your mind to muscle connection, you're documenting everything. you're putting in the work and it's been a couple of months and you still don't see the toning and definition you want. We'll get into why next, because this is a huge gap that hasn't really been explained to women, and it's a huge mistake that I see with clients before they start working with me. If any of this is clicking for you, hit subscribe. I post weekly videos every single week so that you can stop spinning your wheels and finally learn how to truly transform your body. Weight loss, fat loss, toning and definition, all naturally without extremes. Now let's keep going. Point 3, you think you're doing everything right, but you're actually just faking it. Before we go any further, I want you to honestly sit with yourself for a second, and not in a way that's going to make you feel bad, but in a way that's going to make you take a good, honest look at what you're doing or not doing as it relates to getting the weight loss, fat loss, and toning results that you want. Because there's a very specific profile of women who are trying hard. They're showing up to workouts, they're giving it their all, they really care, they're eating healthy, they're working out, and they don't understand why their bodies aren't changing. And I know this because that used to be me for an entire decade. But after losing 40 pounds naturally at 38 years old and getting fit as fuck, I can honestly sit here on the other side and tell you that what you're doing isn't wrong, it's just the wrong approach. And again, I know this because it used to be me. Here's what is true. If you're already working out, eating healthy, and putting in all this effort, I guarantee you that parts of your training and parts of your nutrition are off. Not by a lot, but just by a little bit, and enough to where it's keeping your body stuck. Here are some questions to consider. Do you know exactly what you lifted last week? Exercises, weights, and reps for every activity you did. Are you doing the same exercises every single week, week after week, or is it changing? Can you feel the specific muscle you are targeting in every set and in every rep, or are you just going through the motion? When you finish a workout, are you chasing a calorie burn or how much you sweat or what your app said you did, or are you chasing performance? Has your workout felt genuinely challenging for you? Like those last 2 reps felt impossible. You thought your legs and your arms were gonna fall off and that you were gonna die if you completed it, or was it just kind of hard? Because if your workouts are starting to feel manageable and they're just hard, that's not enough to create the muscle and the stimulus that you're looking for. If you said no to 2 or 3 or even half of these things, you're not in true progressive overload. You might be in consistent movement and you might be consistent with working out, but again, that's not going to change your body the way that you want it to. There's a difference between burning calories and building muscle. What we're seeing here is the gap between what you're doing and what actually gets you results. And the good news with that is it's totally fixable. You can close that gap and you can do it today. But there's one piece that closes the loop on all of this. And if you're not doing this, no amount of progressive overload is going to yield the results that you're looking for. Because even if you fix the training, if you're missing this one piece, everything that you're doing is going to be totally canceled out. So let's dive into this one next. Point 4, your calorie deficit, underfueling, and cutting carbs is literally canceling out all of your hard work. Here's one of the biggest things that nobody is putting together for women, and this one is important. You can be doing everything right in the gym with progressive overload, tracking your weight, proper form, tempo, and intensity, mind to muscle connection, going hard, going heavy, beating your score every single week. But if you don't have the proper nutrition to support it, no amount of hard work with progressive overload is going to do anything. And the specific nutrition mistake that I see over and over again with people who are eating healthy, working out, strength training, and lifting with progressive overload is that they are trying to build muscle in a calorie deficit or when they're underfueling and or cutting carbs. Like, girl, that just does not go together. That combination doesn't yield results. That's like asking your body to build tissue when it doesn't even have the raw materials to do it. Plus, think about it this way. Growing muscle and maintaining muscle are 2 very different things. If you want to maintain your current muscle mass, it can survive on a lot less. If you're trying to grow muscle as you pair that with your progressive overload training program, you need 3 key things in your diet. Number 1, you need protein to help you rebuild the tissue that you're tearing in the gym. And not just when you feel like it, but every single day. 2, carbs. Your body needs carbs to fuel the workout and to help you rebuild the muscle. Because spoiler alert, carbs is what your body uses for your strength training session. So if you're cutting out bread, fruit, and other carbs in your life, your body just doesn't have the fuel to be able to build the muscle that it needs to, both from an energy perspective and because your body uses glycogen to fuel that workout. Number 3 is calories. A lot of people think that they can just count their protein and be okay. But if you are underfueled and your calories are too low, your body just doesn't have the raw materials and resources it needs to build adequate muscle. And I'm not talking about becoming a bodybuilder, but you still need calories in order to tone and tighten. And if I need to say this louder for the people in the back, you cannot grow muscle in a calorie deficit. Is there a time where you can grow muscle and shed fat at the same time while maybe being in a small deficit? Yes. But is it more likely that you're going to see better results if you adequately fuel yourself? Yes. There's a time and place for a deficit. There's a time and place for cutting carbs. And when you're trying to grow muscle, that ain't it. Now, I know a lot of this can sound confusing, which is why you should hire a body transformation coach like me who specializes in this so that I can guide your strategy, hold you accountable, and help you get the results that you're looking for. But if you want to take action today, like right now, this is what I would advise. Start eating enough food so that you can train properly. This means adequate protein, calories, and carbs to properly fuel your workout. I've had clients who came in eating 1,100 or 1,200 calories, trying hard in the gym, doing their workouts without seeing results. But when we bumped them up to 2,400 calories, they finally lost weight. And I'm thinking of one client in mind who went from 1,100 calories all the way up to 2,400 calories, and she ended up losing 16 pounds in 3 months by eating more food and training properly. So here's where we land. Real progressive overload with proper nutrition is always going to yield you better results. Now, I want to give you something concrete that you can implement starting today to help you see even better results. Point 5, do this tonight to find out where you're really at. You can't fix what you haven't looked at. And most of you are operating based on feeling like, oh, I think I'm doing all the right things. But if you don't actually know where you're starting from and you don't know where those gaps are, you're not going to see the results that you want. So doing this audit is only going to take you 10 minutes and it's going to tell you exactly what you need to focus on. I want you to think about your body like renovating a house. You might want to go in and start picking out paint colors, new furniture, new light fixtures, and all the fun things that make a house pretty. But if the foundation has a crack in it, none of those pretty fixtures or fine tuning is going to hold up long term. Strength training that lacks progressive overload and proper nutritional support is kind of like going in and doing a paint job without ever fixing the foundation. It just doesn't work. This audit is how you fix the foundation of your house, aka your body. Honestly, you're going to find out one or two things. Either your training is closer to right and nutrition is what needs to be fixed, or you need to totally revamp your training program from the ground up. Either way, that direction is going to help guide you to fix where the gap is, which is way better than doing a whole other year of all the things without actually having your body change. Now, I want you to pull up your workouts from last week and answer this honestly. Step 1. Write down every exercise you did last week, including what weight you used and the reps that you did. If you can't do this or you don't know the answers, you're not properly tracking, and that's gap number 1. Step 2, look at what you did in the weeks prior. If you're not doing the same exercises every single week, you're not actually doing progressive overload, and that's gap number 2. Step 3, open a tracking app and track every single thing that you eat and drink for an entire week. I want you to pay special close attention to your protein intake. If you're not at about 1 gram of protein per body weight, that's the gap. Now, I say that with a caveat because as females, we need to pay closer attention to that because anything over 150 grams of protein can be extra taxing on the kidneys. So always consult your doctor if you have questions. But also you could reach out to me too. Step 4, decide for the next few weeks that you're going to stick to the same exercises every single week. I recommend doing this for 8 to 12 weeks total. Beat your score every week. So increase weight, increase reps, or increase both with proper form, tempo, intensity, and mind to muscle connection. Here are my final thoughts. The reason your body isn't changing isn't because you're not trying or you're not doing the work. It's because the work that you've been doing have been missing specific ingredients that actually make an impact. And once you have those ingredients, like real progressive overload, real intensity, real mind to muscle connection, and real nutritional support, everything changes. If this video has connected some dots for you, I recommend the next one, which is all about weight gain and perimenopause. And if you're a female in your late 30s and 40s, this video is going to hit home, especially if you feel like your hormones are up against you. That video is linked right here. Click to watch it next.